Sometimes life happens.
We see you.
And you feel all alone.
We feel you.
With nowhere to go.
We got you.
So many questions unanswered.
We understand, yeah.
And you feel like you can't.
But God
wrestle with
understands.
your own thoughts. This is for you.
Yeah.
When life happens and it makes you feel like you're off the beat, 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 off the beat. Real authentic conversations. What's up, everyone? Welcome to Offbeat Podcast. And today we have another episode that we're going to be bringing to you guys. And I'm excited for this one. And if you guys been following us for some time now, you guys know that we're all about highlighting people's offbeat stories. That's what we're all about, you know, regardless of what walk of life they've come from, regardless of what they're doing in their life right now. We all have an offbeat story, you know what I mean? And like I've shared before, life is always trying to tell us, you know, that there's only one rhythm, you know what I mean? But we all know that, man, we all have our own rhythm, especially God. God has his own rhythm. He's designed us uniquely. And so today's episode, man, is, no exception to that. You know, she has an offbeat story, and I'm excited to have her, Jessica Ramirez.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I'm super excited to be here.
Of course, man. It's good to have you here. And so, you know, I remember when Ruben, aka Humble Beast, you know, for those that have watched his story, know that he has an amazing story. But he kept telling me, man, I know someone that has an awesome story, an awesome testimony, man, that it needs to be shared. And I said, well, tell me a little bit more. And he shared with me a little bit. I said, yeah, send me her number, man. Let's get this going, because that's what we're about. We're about providing a platform so that people like me, people like you, people like Humble Beast, people like all the people that we've been able to have an interview here can have a platform where they can share their story. So Jessica, tell us a little bit about you. How was your childhood?
My childhood was definitely different. I grew up with 5 sisters, but I was my dad's son he never had.
Okay.
So I was like his right hand all the time. Wherever he was, I was not too far away. But because of that, it definitely led me to have a different lifestyle than my sisters did. I grew up a little bit more rough. I grew up more in the streets. He was, part of a gang, and so I kind of ran in that lifestyle. So I was brought up to be tough, his little boy, his daughter, but his boy, don't cry, be strong, push hard, like, you don't let nobody bully you. Like, it was just a very different lifestyle for a little girl growing up. I didn't know any better, so.
And it's because you had no brothers.
No brothers.
Okay.
So.
And where did you grow up at? What city?
I grew up in Bloomington. We call it on the Number Street side because there are 2 sides to Bloomington.
Okay.
So the Number Street side is usually the rougher side, and then you have the streets with names on the other side of the bridge. So that's where I did most of my troubles.
Yeah. So growing up, and so basically your dad took you on as, like, you know what, I'm going to invest everything I know. Sounds like everything I know, everything I've been through, he really wanted to invest that back into you.
Right.
Sounds like.
So the whole time my mom was pregnant, I was supposed to be a boy. So he was just, excited.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I was born, they're like, oh, you have a daughter. He's like, are you sure? And so my mom had told me one time that people would see me and my dad together and be like, there he goes with the little boy he never had. I was always fishing. My dad would leave and he was mad at my mom, and I was right there on the truck with him. Like, it was always me and him side by side. So, he did invest what he knew best to invest in me. So. And
then how was your relationship with your mom growing up?
It was tough. It was really tough. I don't feel like we really had a relationship. I think she tried the best she could, but sometimes I feel like I was a center of an argument all the time. My dad would take me, and then she would be chasing after him to get me, or where's Cujo at? That was always it. Where's Cujo at?
Was that a nickname?
That was my
for
nickname. Yeah, and so I think that put strain on us.
Yeah,
and so it wasn't the best.
Gotcha.
It's great now.
Yeah.
It is great
Since
now.
then it's gotten better.
Definitely
good.
so.
That's good. So What's one of like your earliest memories growing up?
My earliest memories, I used to love fishing with my dad. That was our thing. That was just, he'd come in the room the night before. He'd tell me and my sisters, like, I'm only going to say your name one time. If you guys don't get up, you're not going. And he would come in the room and be like, Cujo, wake up. And I'm like, I'm awake. Let's go. So I remember just making sandwiches, sitting in the truck, bundled up, drinking coffee or hot chocolate, and just waiting and fishing all day with him. You know, he'd be there drinking and I'd be fishing and all the fishermen be watching me, making sure I'd be eating from their lunch pails. I would walk around the whole lake and everyone would know who I was and I would just be eating out of there.
What was one of you guys' favorite lakes to go to?
We used to go to Guasti, actually.
Guasti?
Yeah.
Where's that by?
Off of Archibald in Ontario.
Okay.
Yeah. So we spent a lot of time there.
Is that still a popular site? Or
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I actually worked there for a couple of years, so it was super cool.
Oh, nice, nice. Like for the parks?
Yeah, for the parks
and recreations? Yeah. Okay, nice. And what is it that you do now?
I actually do work comp for LA City Fire Department.
Okay, work comp. I used to do work comp.
Nice, nice.
I used to do work comp for a long time.
Oh, okay. You either love it or you hate it. So
yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, it definitely is.
So let me ask you. So because you did mention a little bit earlier that your dad was involved in gangs, right, growing up, and was that still something very active even when you were growing up, where you were still seeing and witnessing?
Yeah. So I did grow up fighting a lot. It was always like, let's go. I was fighting all the time, beating up guys, just that was my thing. I was just angry, I guess. I used to sell drugs. I used to, pick up drugs. I mean, in 7th, 8th grade, I was making money. Like, people knew who we were,
So
it was just like...
12, 13 years old?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I started using drugs probably like when I was 9 years old. And then I was selling drugs by like 10, 11 years old. Wow. So, yeah.
And your dad, it's safe to say your dad knew about all this? Or...
I don't think he knew about it directly, but he knew.
He knew about it.
He knew.
He didn't know. Like, he didn't...
As I got older, he knew for sure.
Yeah.
But it was kind of like, but you don't.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. We're not going to talk about it, but I know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And everybody else in the neighborhood knows what you're doing, and they're all watching you, so behave yourself, Yeah. But I was still making a name for who I was because I was Cujo. I needed to be tough. I needed to represent who my dad was by walking in his image. So that's what I did a lot of that growing up, walking in my dad's image.
And that's usually, a band of honor, for people that, grow up in that lifestyle or around that, or just in general. I think kids in general will always look up to their parents in one way or another, and will try to say, if there's something that they represented, and that child grows up, seeing that or knowing about that, they're going to want to also represent that well.
Right.
And so, and then your dad, like you say, he was still very active. So, of course, he was still finding out easily because he's still around that. People were talking, people around the neighborhood.
But I wanted to make him proud.
Yeah.
And I was, because people knew who I was. They knew I was going to fight. They knew that I was going to take care of business, so to say, you know? And so I felt like in my sisters, he had all girls, but I was the one that could make him proud because I could be tough for him.
Yeah. And then how was your relationship with your other siblings, with your other sisters?
We were sisters.
Yeah.
We were fighting with each other. I mean, we were just... My sometimes in certain areas, my other sisters were a little bit more sheltered. But again, I think that comes from my mom not really having an option because my dad was like, no, she's going to go with me. Yeah. But our relationship was good. I don't think it was until he passed away there was a little bit of animosity that, tendered up between us. But for the most part, we got along great. It's all we really had. We only had each other. My dad was in the streets and my mom was working. So we took care of each other. Yeah. From a very young age, we were cooking and cleaning and washing laundry and making sure that, we were all surviving. Yeah. But my mom and dad were night and day. And my dad was on the streets and my mom was very book smart. She was a nurse. She's working doing all the work just so that we can have a home while my dad is kind of doing what he wants, so.
Yeah. And so throughout your childhood, throughout junior high and everything, so now in high school, do things get better or things get worse?
So things kind of get tough. So I had a baby at a young age. I was raped and molested when I was growing up. And then I had a son. So I actually took my son to school with me. I went to Colton High. They had a daycare center there. So I was able to take my son to school with me, and I went through high school. But now I had a different, I was still a mom, but now I still had to prove to people that I was still tough, The first time I ever cried was when I was pregnant. My dad was like, oh my gosh, I'm realizing you're a girl because you're crying. So now I'm dealing with these emotions of I'm kind of soft inside, but I'm struggling with the fact that I'm not supposed to be soft. I'm supposed to be strong. I'm supposed to figure it out. Yeah. And so it was just a different type of struggle at that point of now, before I used to fight because I was kind of protecting people. So if somebody was at school and they were getting bullied, I decided I was just going to beat that person up who was bullying the other person, right? But in high school, it got to where now I just needed a fight to just prove that I was still who I was. Just because I'm a mom doesn't mean I'm weak or soft, so to say. So I came up with new struggles during that time.
Yeah. And if you don't mind kind of going back to that situation, I mean, we don't have to get into any details or anything, but that situation where you talked about that, you were, how old were you when that happened, when you were taken advantage of, when you were raped?
I was 12 when it started, and then when I got raped, I was 13.
And was this something that, so this is something that continued? This was something that progressed and continued?
Yes. And then it just got worse and violent. I think it started when I was maybe 8 or 9, maybe younger. But I do remember that as it started getting worse, around the time I was 9 is when I started doing drugs. And that's when I think the first time that I really started to mask who I was. Not wanting to be seen, but kind of wanting to make a presence. It was just a weird struggle I was in.
Yeah.
And then from that age on, it just continued to get worse and worse. And so I decided to just, I guess, resort to anger to survive. Yeah. Since that was already. So since nobody knew my secret and I was being a victim, and I hate that word because I'm not a victim, but I think because in my mind at that age, I was behind the scenes being taken advantage of, hurt up front in the forefront. People in life had to take on my anger, where I had to prove a point that I was strong and I was tough and I can take care of things because I was trying to be safe from this. Sorry.
No, it's okay. And so nobody knew about this?
No.
And was this someone close to you that you knew? Oh, was it
family member? Yeah.
Yeah. Was that ever addressed?
Yeah, it was addressed. And so definitely here's the thing. I had decided that I was never going to be a victim. When I was 14, I had my son, and he is a result of that. Yeah. And when I had him, I remember praying after it happened. I remember praying before I found out I was pregnant, and I literally asked God, I need you to give me a reason to survive because I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to live no more. And maybe 2 weeks later, I found out I was pregnant. And so I always looked at my son as God telling me, this is your reason to live. And so that just gave me the to keep going.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, Lord, I'm strong enough to deal with this. I can do this. And so it was later addressed. It did cause some, issues within the family, but for the most part, my mom, my dad, my sisters, and everybody, we all kind of just made it work. Made it work. So, yeah.
Wow, that's unimaginable, and I know you say that you don't like that word, and I understand why, right. I understand why a lot of times people don't want to, be the victim, but the truth is though that, it's hard sometimes when you don't know how to address those things,
Right.
you know, because you were a victim of something,
Right.
but, you know, to stay a victim, and that's what I understand, and I know that that's probably what our audience is probably understanding too. It's not so much that you're denying that something happened,
Definitely
because
not.
something did happen, but the fact that you didn't want to stay in that state of mind.
I had decided that I was not going to allow this person to continue to take control over my life forever, but I was going to use this situation to fuel me to be a better person.
Yeah.
And I was never going to allow it to be like, oh, she didn't make it in life because these things happen.
Yeah.
No, I made it in life because these things built me to make me stronger and who I am today. And the woman I am now sitting here in front of you is so much greater because of that.
Yeah.
And it was important for me to be able to show that to other people, that you can take something so horrible and you can use it for good. And you can use it as the fire to light your path down to what you're supposed to do in life. And so that's why I don't like the word victim, because I'm not. I'm successful. I'm a warrior. I'm stronger because of this.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And you certainly are, man. You certainly are. And let me ask you something in regards to that, you know, kind of still in the same page a little bit. What did that do to you? What did that do to you that you now are maybe you advocate for? Maybe you can, somebody that's listening to us that might have gone through that or is going through that, you know, or even for parents, you know, to be careful with certain things. Like, what would you speak into that after having an experience like that?
I think the one thing that I would speak into is that you have the decision to allow this to carry on for you. And there are people out there who are not going to judge you. And it happens more than you realize. And sometimes you just need to find the strength to speak up.
Yeah.
And I say that you just choose to be great out of it.
Yeah.
Choose to find a flower in the flames and hold on to that, and know that God didn't give you that incident, or they're not giving you this. He's not giving you this incident right now to stop you. He's giving it to grow you. And you may not understand it, but later in life, your story of your strength and how you've overcome and who you decided to be despite that is going to be so much greater than the moment you're in right now. This moment will pass. And just for parents, I strongly encourage this is a big thing for me, you know, is that I think sometimes my mom walks with guilt, but don't be guilty. Don't feel guilty. It's okay. Despite whatever you were going to do or you thought you could do, it didn't happen. But the only way that you guys are going to get through this as a family unit is acknowledging it and supporting whatever emotions that person is going through to heal. Their healing process is their healing process. And you have to help them. You may not understand it, but just be there to help them and don't feel guilty.
Wow. Yeah, that's so powerful. And I think a lot of moms, people out there need to hear that.
Right.
They need to hear, especially from someone who experienced that, because it's easy for, you know, for example, like if I were to, you know, be in front of someone who has gone through that, it's a lot more difficult, you know, because in those situations where it's like, man, well, yeah, you're telling me like there's a purpose behind this, you know, but you're not the one going through this. And so it's so hard to communicate that. But when it's coming from someone who's actually gone through that, you know, it brings just a whole different perspective, because you're a living testimony of someone who was able to live through a horrible, horrendous, you know, tragic situation, traumatizing situation. But now you're here, you know, speaking on it and being able to speak on it in such a positive way. You know? So I commend you so much for that.
Thank you.
You know, and so moving forward now, high school, you have your son.
Right.
At 14 years old.
Yes.
You're a mom. You know, you're still trying to, because I get that part where, hey, I'm not soft, just I'm a mom now, but I'm not soft
because I'm feeling soft inside, right?
Yeah.
When you become a mom, you feel all kind. Remind you, I never cried growing up. My dad was like, you don't cry. Like, you never let nobody see you cry. It's a sign of weakness. So literally the first time I ever cried to him, my mom's like, okay, she is your daughter. She's going to cry. But he was even shook. And then, I don't know, all those years of never crying, I was just crying all the time. So now I'm feeling soft inside. So, it was a battle of like, I got to be strong. And then now I'm a mom, right? So I have to take care of a kid. I have to I have to do all these things. So I'm still selling drugs. I'm still doing drugs because I'm trying to function. You know what I mean? I'm fighting. I'm going to school. I'm taking my kid. I'm walking. Like, I'm like trying to do it all. But I don't know what I'm doing because I'm young still, high school was tough. I dropped out of high school. I ended up dropping out of high school and getting my GED. But I think for me, that was the best bet because high school just gave me so much opportunity to lash out.
Yeah.
And so I kind of needed to pull out of that environment.
Yeah.
I'm super smart. My mom never, we didn't have a TV growing up. We read books and listened to the radio. And so I was bored in class. I was in trouble. So it was just, I think, for me and my story and my testimony, leaving high school was something that was actually good for me.
Right.
And although at the time it didn't seem like it, but I still got my GED. I still went to college. I still did, I did the other things, but I just needed to leave that environment.
At that moment. Yeah. And that's, I agree with that. Sometimes, you do have to, depending the situation, depending the person's story, sometimes looking into alternatives is better for people. I know a lot of young people that now there's a lot more options. Right. And there's even actually something called like options for youth. Right. Which is like an alternative way for kids to, it's not so much a continuation school, but it's not a high school, and so it gives a lot of kids, that opportunity to kind of phase out of that. Right. Because high school can be tough, man.
It's tough.
Like school, I sympathize so much for young people sometimes, you know, especially depending where they grow up in. Like here in San Bernardino, I sympathize a lot because it's tough. You know, it's tough for a lot of kids, you know, and I can imagine that only for you, you know, how tough it could have been as well. It you know, being a brand new mom and then still, you know, because it sounds like you were still battling your identity.
Right, definitely.
You know, can you talk about it, like, talk a little bit about that?
I think that it's crazy because probably only in the last maybe 3 years have I really found who I was. And I'm 39. I just turned 39. But I was constantly trying to figure out, who am I? Like, what is my purpose?
Yeah.
I only know how to be a mom. You know, I don't know anything else. We took care of our sisters, so I was a mom at a young age before I even had a baby.
Yeah.
And then it was like, okay, I'm trying to be tough for my dad. I got to be a boy. I got to be a girl. Like, and it's not like I ever thought I was a boy. It was just I got to be tough like a boy, right?
Yeah.
I have to be strong like a boy, you know. And I didn't wear makeup and I didn't comb my hair. I just threw in a ponytail and, you know, I just worked like I just didn't know who I was.
Yeah.
But I was trying to be the best me that I could in those moments to survive.
Yeah.
So for all those years, I was just surviving. And I was layering myself. We spoke briefly before this that I was layering myself to be hidden from attention. And that's when like my trouble with food came in and really just losing who I was. I was a sister, I was a mom, I was a daughter, I was all these things but Jessica. I did not know who Jessica was, but it was okay because nobody else knew that. Everybody else who looked at me thought, okay, she knows who she is and, you know, that's that. But I didn't. I was just being who I thought I needed to be in the moment. And in those moments, I was trying to help people. It was weird because I was like this bad person, but then I was also, my heart just wanted to help the people around me. Yeah. I was never bad because I just wanted to be mean. I was bad because I was doing bad things to help other people.
Yeah.
So I was justifying my behavior, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And
Well, you were. It really sounds like you were just trying to make the best out of your environment.
Right.
Which I always hold to it. Some of the best hearted people, are people that, come from, hard backgrounds.
Right.
I will always stand to that. Some of the sweetest people, some of the people they will literally take their shirt off their
Right.
back, you know what I mean, to give to you, are some of the people that you might look at on the street, that people might even look down on.
Right.
Or because of, their background or because of this. But some of the sweetest, tender-hearted people, man. And so I totally get where you're coming from. But it just seems that your environment, is what, you were identifying with your environment.
Right.
You were just going with the flow with whatever it is was there. But in your heart, you
Right.
wanted to do good.
Right. And I felt like, I remember praying when I was little, and same thing, telling God, like, Lord, please don't ever let anything bad happen to my sisters. Like, let everything bad that would happen to them come to me, because I can handle it, Lord. Like, I can take it. Like, don't let them be sick. Don't let them this. And so as things would happen as I was growing up, like, I always took it like, okay, God's giving this to me because at least they don't have to go through it. Or God's putting these people in my life so I can protect them. So if I have to go through it, it's okay. If I have to get in trouble, it's okay. So I always justified it like, okay, Lord, you're just allowing these things to happen or come across me so that I could protect other people. That was my mind. Even in school, when, like I said, if I seen somebody being picked on, right away I would make it my business and I would go fight with the person who was picking on somebody, because I felt like it's okay if I get in trouble and I go home and I get hit, because I can take it. But this person can't. So I was always trying to protect people through my outlet of being angry at the same time.
Yeah. So it was your way of just releasing everything.
Right.
Yeah.
And justifying it.
And yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so fast forward, you get your GED, you're a mom, you put high school to the side.
Right.
Because you just shared right now that your identity, you're barely these last 3 years, you know what I mean?
Right.
What other big identity crisis or issues did you go through from here to there?
So I drank a lot. I started drinking a lot. I lost some friends, and I did really well for a long time. I was serving Christ. I was in a church. We were there. We were committed. We were doing camp and everything. And I went through a really hard death of a close friend.
Okay.
And that pushed me back into drinking. And so the drinking led me to be around people I shouldn't be around. And then I ended up kind of like having church hurt. The church kind of put their back on me. And, one of the pastors was just kind of like, hey, you guys can't talk to her. You can't this, you can't that. And it was hard because my kids and I had grew up in that church. And so when I got church hurt, I completely closed myself off from I'm never going to church again. Yeah. I knew God was always there. He never left me. That was the one thing that I'm so grateful for, because no matter where I was at in my life, God never left me. I never felt void. I never felt like, where's he at? I always felt him there. Like, he was always telling me, like, you know better, Jess, you know better. Yeah. And so our communication was always very tight. So I didn't go to church for like 15 years. I made some poor decisions. I continued to drink. I ended up actually, not a lot of people know this. I used to be very embarrassed to share this, but I'm not anymore. So it's a part of my story. But I was actually married to a woman for 6 years. Okay. It was my best friend. And I think we drank a lot. And then it was more just, I guess, like being comfortable having her there. Okay. And so that kind of just pushed me more away, and then what friends I did have left from the church were kind of like, okay, we're done with you. And so that just justified more, I don't want to be a part of church. And I always did Bible studies, though. I hosted Bible studies at my work. I went to Bible studies at people's houses. Like I still shared God.
Yeah.
Because I really did have a relationship with him still. And I used to tell people, like, you don't need to go to a church to worship God. Like, it's your relationship. Like, you guys don't know the struggle I'm battling in every day. You're just seeing the life I'm living. Like, I'm trying. Like, I think that people didn't understand that I was trying. I really was trying to be better, but I was already stuck in so much sin. And I was already stuck with so much layers of not knowing who I was. I was lost. Like, mind you, I was like almost 400 pounds of just coats of, and I tell people now, like, it wasn't fat. I look at it as layers of hurt that I had covered myself since I was a little girl.
Yeah.
And it was weighing on me. And so from that to, I don't know, just one day I was praying and I just told God I didn't want to do this anymore. I think what actually happened is one day I was married at the time, and my wife was saying, hey, I don't want you to go to church. And I remember sitting there saying, well, I'm not going to go to church. I'm not going to be a part of the God thing, okay? But as soon as that like came out of my mouth, conviction in my heart, and I remember was saying, like, if you deny me in front of people, I will deny you. And that like hit me like a rock in my chest. I was scared standing there in my mind like, oh my gosh, I literally just denied God. Like, it was so, I felt like that was just another level of, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And that was really the moment that things started to change.
Like, it was something that your heart, it wasn't so much like a guilt trip.
No.
You know, it was more like your heart knowing that, hey, you know what, like, don't, it's kind of like a parent. Like,
right.
You know, you have kids, so maybe you can understand this too. It's kind of like when your son or your daughter doesn't want to hug you.
Right.
You know, they don't want to kiss you. You're like, give me a kiss. And they're like, no, go away or something.
Right.
And, you know, it's like it hurts.
Right.
You know, and it's kind of like that sadness that you feel. And then when your child sees that.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, okay. And they turn around, like they give you.
Right.
So it's kind of like that.
Right. Definitely so. And I was just reminded of like, I never left you. You're leaving me. Yeah. Like, it was more of that like stern moment, because I just felt like he told me in that moment, like,
yeah,
you're pulling away. I'm not going anywhere. I'm still here. You're making the decision at this point to walk away.
Yeah.
And I just knew that I needed to make a change.
Yeah.
And I did. I stopped drinking. And I stopped drinking, and then we ended up splitting up. And I was going to, my sister was actually hosting Bible study at the house. And remember, I told you I was still like very active in going to Bible studies and stuff like that. So I was going to her Bible study, and I remember that group loving me. Like, them girls loved me. Like, some of them kind of knew. Again, that situation where they know, but they don't know.
Yeah.
But like, they didn't care. They loved me for who I was. And that was life-changing for me.
And then talk about that in what way? Because I think that's a real important topic to kind of pause and touch on, because I think that's something that we see so much.
Right.
You know, we see a lot of that, but we see also a lot of what you mentioned earlier, that a lot of people, because they don't know how to deal with things, you know, there's a lot of people out there that excommunicate people, you know, that,
right.
like you said, they're like, hey, don't talk to them anymore. Don't do this. Don't
right.
affiliate with them, you know, and they cause that hurt. They cause that hurt, that church hurt, you know, but you know, something in you still always had that belief that, no, you know what, I know that I am the way that I am, but God still loves me.
Right.
And then now you find yourself in a community of people expressing and showing you the complete opposite. What did that really do to you? It
made me feel like it was okay that I was in the middle of the mess, because people saw who I was inside. And that really started my healing process of not being embarrassed and not feeling judged, and genuine love, because these girls didn't want anything from me. They just loved me. I mean, I would go to church, I would go to Bible study sometimes hungover, so I know I smelled like alcohol, but they still loved me. They still, like, they would see me walk in and they would just be like, Jess, like, you're here. And that love was not a love that I was familiar with.
Yeah.
It was different. And they really helped me. I believe that Bible study is really what helped me start breakthrough without me even realizing it, because I felt a genuine love with no strings attached. They just wanted to see me show up. And that's it. And it was just amazing.
And I think that's so important when it comes to addressing especially the LGBTQ community. You know, it's one of the things that I'll even be honest, you know, I'm ignorant to. You know, we talk about it sometimes with people, and it's something that, you know, there is no right or wrong answer.
Right.
But I think you gave the right answer. And that right answer is, the thing is that sometimes we desire so much to change people.
Right.
But the thing is that we just have to love on people.
Right.
It's not our job to change people.
Right.
And I think the church has to stop carrying this belief. And I think a lot of times it's because of organizational beliefs.
Right.
It's because of religious beliefs. You know, it's because of, you know, harsh, you know, maybe they did grow up with harsh teachings, harsh doctrine and things like that. But when you really dissect the Bible, you know, when you really study Jesus, when you really study how Jesus was, you know, Jesus, what he cared about more than anything was the condition of the heart.
Right.
You know, and he understood that the only way he was going to be able to touch and reach a person's heart was by being relatable.
Right.
Being relatable, by being inviting, you know, by being accepting, but to the point where, like you said, you were loved on so much. It was something you were not familiar with.
Right.
But it wasn't something you were pushed like, no. In order for you to be here, you got to start doing this.
Right.
Or you have to change this, Jessica. Or you know what? This relationship is no good. You have to leave it. No, it was just a genuine love and acceptance of, hey, you're a person.
Right.
You're a human being. You struggle the way that I struggle.
Right.
You know, we might sin different. We might have a different mess, like you said.
Right.
You were in the middle of your mess. But they said, hey, in the middle of your mess, Jessica,
right,
we love you.
Definitely. And I think that's the biggest thing that I have always been like. I would always want to, I wanted people to know God because of the love that I showed them. Mm-hmm. I wanted people to say, okay, why does she care? Like, why is she different? Yeah. And that be the opportunity for me to say, I love you because God loved me. Like, that's all that it comes down to. Like, I'm going to pray for you. Yeah. And, you know, my prayer closet, I'm going to pray for you. Yeah. But when we're together, I just want you to know that I love you. Yeah. Nothing in the world matters to anybody who is hurting or who is trying to figure out who they are. Yeah. More than just knowing that somebody loves them right in the middle of where they're at. Yeah. And with nothing else expected.
With no strings attached.
Right.
You know, because we're already so messed up. You know, like you said, I love what you said. It wasn't pounds that you were carrying. It was layers. Right. It was layers of, and I think that so many of us, you know, we even shared a little bit about, you know, because you were asking me, why did you start the podcast? And many that have heard my story, you know, if you haven't, go check it out. Go check out my story. You know, it was the first episode that we opened up with. And I talk about it so freely even in there, where even after I came to Christ, you know, the job wasn't done. Right. You know, even though I thought the job was done, because I was free, you know, I was free from crystal meth. You know, I stopped using crystal meth. Right. You know, I wasn't affiliated in my gang anymore. I broke free from that, but I thought that was it. But without realizing that those were just layers. Those were
Right.
just layers that I was using. The anger, it was just a layer. The drugs, it was just a layer. The gang violence, it was just a layer.
Right.
And for a lot of people out there, like even maybe you're not overweight with, but the gym could be a layer. All these different things in your life could be a layer. But what really breaks through those layers isn't rules. It's not religion. It's not, regulations. It's not even laws. The United States can change laws. They can do all these different things, and it's great. Whatever they come up with, whatever people can come up with and do and feel like that's going to work, like, okay. But at the end of the day, it all comes down to the condition of the heart.
Right.
And the only way we're ever going to break through that, in my opinion, and in my belief, because of my own life and what you're sharing, is really love.
Right. Right. So I always pray and ask God, like, let me have a love like Jesus. Like, I want to love the way Jesus loves. I want people to see that love in me. Like, help me. More than anything I want is to have a heart like Jesus and to never become judgmental. I truly believe in my heart, like you said, the only way that we can make a difference in this world is loving one person. And if my story and my love for one person can change, that's all I want, because it's going to pour in to other people. And so, yeah, I have all these like little nifty things. Like, I do Feel Good Friday. So on Fridays, I started, like, I think I'm like an influencer.
Let's go.
But on Fridays, I do Feel Good Friday.
That's good.
And so I randomly like just do something. I always tell everybody, do something nice for somebody who could do nothing for you. Right?
I love
and
that.
so like, my sister will go through Venmo and she'll like scroll through like random people, and then she'll like stop, and then she'll just send them like a gift.
Oh, wow.
And say, Happy Feel Good Friday.
Let me send her my Venmo.
Like, here's a coffee on me, like,
That's
have a great
awesome.
day. And
I love that.
sometimes they'll message back and be like, you don't even know, like, we needed this,
Yeah.
or we just do, it's just something that I had started because I was like, do you know how like great that is to just this stranger?
Not expecting.
Not like, I don't even know you, but why do we only help the people that we know?
Yeah.
Like, we need to love everybody.
Yeah.
Because that's where the change happens, because somebody loved me in my darkest and they didn't even know it. So how awesome is it that we can love somebody in their darkest and we may not even know it?
Yeah, and it wasn't something. And let me ask you, and it wasn't something, because I know a lot of times people think that, to change that lifestyle, especially you were in a same-sex marriage for 6 years, and so now you come clashing with this group of people, this group of women that are loving you, but you are the one who's conscious of, I need to change. I want to change. It wasn't so much that I need to. Now that it's I want to,
Right. Right.
And because I think a lot of people can get that confused, even in that community, because they advocate so much like, no, we need to be inclusive. We need to be inclusive. We need to be inclusive. And I agree that we need to be inclusive, but I also feel that at the same time, we need to just love on people. Because as we love on people, as we love on them, as we accept them for who they are, and as we love on them, it's the love of God. I'm a firm believer in this. It's the love of God, that causes us to really analyze. It's like a light. I picture it like a light. It's like a reflective mirror in our life. When the love of God comes to us, there's this reflective mirror that turns on in our life. And we begin to see what ultimately separates us from the one who loves us. It's not so much that he, like you mentioned earlier, I'm not pulling away from you, Jessica. You're pulling away from me.
Right.
Like I'm always been here. And I feel like this world needs to understand that God's not pulling away from us.
Right.
The Bible even says where sin abounds, grace abounds even more. So I believe that there is an abundance of grace. And I think Christians everywhere need to hear this. That you, because sometimes we see the sin that's happening in the world and we say, oh my gosh, like this is horrible. This is, never in a million years. No, We're not shocking God.
Right.
The Bible says where sin abounds,
Right.
his grace abounds even more. But who's going to represent that grace?
Right.
We are.
Right.
We have to represent that grace. We have to take that grace to the people. He wants to abound in grace, but if we're not willing to carry that grace to others, then we're missing the whole point.
Right.
Because that grace is available to anyone, to everyone. And when the day comes when that reflective mirror turns on in their life and they're able to see, wow, here's a God that loves me.
Right.
Here is a God that accepts me. Here is a God that wants to include me.
Right.
Here is a God that has never wanted to shame me. Yeah, the
Right.
world has shamed me. The
Right.
world has done this, but he loves me. So then we begin to peel out layers of our
Right.
life and say, I don't want this anymore to separate me from you, God.
Right.
It's not because they're forcing me. It's not because they're telling me, if you don't change this, you can't sit with us like Mean Girls.
Right.
No, it's, I want to peel
Right.
this out. I want to give up these drugs because it keeps me from God.
Exactly.
I want to turn away from this. Share that a little bit because I feel people can benefit from hearing that
I
from
think
you.
the most important thing, again, for me in those moments where, like you said, nobody told me. Well, there were some people who were like, you have to do this. But the ones that made an impact in my life were the ones who loved me right where I was at and allowed me and stood by my side while I worked through it. I think that if I didn't work through it, me and God together, then me and God wouldn't have a relationship. And so I'm very strong on, I'm not part of a religion. I'm part of a relationship. And at the end of the day, if God doesn't tell me what I'm doing is wrong, if me and him are not having that communication and I'm not feeling corrected from him, no human is going to give me correction in that place unless me and God's communication is so good that I'm like, I know if he sends somebody. Like, let me tell you, Ruben always gets me, okay? He'll be like, just a couple weeks ago, he's like, and he's going to laugh because he's like, are you coming to church? And I was like, no. He's like, why? And I'm like, and when I walked out, I was like, I don't even have a reason to give him, you know? So I'm going to church, and I went to church, you know? But I believe God will place people in your life that really he's saying, hey, these are the people who are going to guide you and help you, right?
Yeah.
He stands by my side. Ruben doesn't, he knows my story. He doesn't judge me. He's never changed his love as he's learned my story. I feel like he's loved me more, and he's mentored me. You know,
the way he, even the way he promotes it, like not promote it, but the way he just lights up when he talks about it.
And it's like,
shows.
I truly believe that we get so caught up in this religion, again, you can't sit here, you can't come to church, you can't do these things. Well, nobody goes to the hospital when they're healthy. So I'm sorry, but I don't want to serve a God where I'm only helping healthy people.
Yeah.
I want to serve a God who is directing me to the streets to help people who are broken, who are in their mess where I was at.
Yeah.
And that's what we need. We really need to start walking in. We need to get out of this, organized religion, however you see it. And you just need to start walking in the streets like Jesus did. Like, let's leave the building and let's go and love people. Let's show them that it's okay. Let's hug them. Like I also have a homeless ministry called A Touch of Love. It started out of my house. We cook home cooked meals and serve the homeless. Mm-hmm. My mom and my sister do wound care for them. But when we go to the streets with them, we pretty much ask for permission to be there because that's their home. That's not my place to be. And so we go there, we build relationships, we love them, we hug them, and sometimes people are like, oh, aren't you afraid? What do I have to be afraid of? Like, I wish somebody would have stopped in my moments and just hugged me sooner.
There you go.
Like, again, for me, love is so powerful of how it can change someone's life.
Yeah.
If you walk in a room and you feel like genuine love, that can change everything.
It can change
everything.
Your entire world.
And so I think it's super important that we get out of these bubbles that do we need to be cautious? Of course. But why aren't we just doing the one thing that's the easiest thing to do?
Yeah.
And if you don't know how to love to that, all the way, pray and ask God to give you that heart. Like I said, I pray and I ask him all the time. please let me have a heart like yours so that I won't be moved. I won't be shaken by the nonsense that goes on around me. Like, I always tell people, I live in a bubble. Like, this is Jess's world here, right? And in my world, it's great. It doesn't mean that bad things don't happen, but I don't let it move me because I'm so reassured of God's love for me and my family and my surroundings. And I'm so confident in the love that I have to give that I know I'm going to be okay no matter what. And if we just get back to the root of what it is, sometimes it's not, and this may be a hard pill for some to swallow, but sometimes it's not about going out there and preaching the word. I strongly, you know, when we go out on the streets and we serve the homeless, one of my rules for my team is we're not shoving the word down anybody. We're coming out here and we're going to love these people.
Yeah.
Do you know how many times people, when we go out there, they say, what church are you from? And we're like, we're not from a church. And they're just kind of like, wait, you're not out here with the church? And we're like, no. Well, then what are you out here for? Because we just want to love you. We just want to serve you some food and get to know who you are.
Yeah.
And they're almost like they feel like because we're not there with the church, that there's no motive. Like, oh, these people just really, and then they're so welcoming, right?
Yeah.
Now we're hanging out with them. Now they're telling me I have to go home. Like, Jess, it's late. You got to go home. You can't be out here, you know? They see my mom, you know, they see my sister. They see them somewhere they're stopping.
Yeah.
But it's like, when we go out there, they see the love. And you know how many times people ask us if we could pray for them? Can you pray for us?
Yeah.
Can you know, my mom picks up some of them and takes them to church. With the, like, and those are our friends. She's like, they know her. They see her coming, and sometimes they don't want to go to church with her. Yeah. She's coming for you. Like, let's go, you know? But it's all because we went out there and we didn't do anything but show Christ's love to them.
Yeah.
And the response to that was so much more.
Yeah.
Because some people have already come from broken homes, or they have an image of what Christianity is in their mind of like, oh, you're a Christian, but like this is what's going on, or you know, and that's a horrible way to say it, but they don't want to hear the word of God.
Yeah.
Sometimes that has to come. That can't be the first thing you just run out on the streets and throw in someone's face, because all of us have heard it. I don't think you can go on the street and ask one person, do you know who Jesus is? And they're going to be like, we've never even heard of the Bible. Like, everybody has heard of who Christ is. But when we go out there on the streets with that love and that we just want to serve you, we just want you to see that you're equal with us.
Right.
That changes lives. And that's what changed my life.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so awesome. And I 100% agree with that, because it's so true, you know. And I really feel like the Bible, it was written for instructions to us. You know, I'm a firm believer in that. Like, the Bible was really built, you know, so that we can benefit and feed from it. You know, where we can, you know, it's going to help us in areas of our life. It's going to bring life to areas in our life. It's going to bring direction. It's going to bring instruction, even correction, you know. But people out there don't need that. Why? Because they're not looking for that. Right. You know, they're not looking for, you know, they're looking just genuinely, you know. I can share about that experience as well. You know, it wasn't so much, you know, somebody reading a long passage to me, you know, that changed my life, that opened me up to that love. You know, it was looking at someone that was exactly like me. Right. You know, when I saw someone that was exactly like me, talking different, you know, looking different, and demonstrating a love to me, you know, and giving up their own bed for me and saying, here, you know what, we don't have beds right now, but here's my bed. You know, take my bed, you know, you sleep here, and you sleep as many days, sleep the drugs off as many days as you need. And like you said, it's something that, you know, you don't expect. It's something you're not used to feeling, you know, but that's where it opens up the space for us to be able to meet who God is. Right. You know, because I think that's the thing. You know, there's so much that I would love to just like, you know, touch on that, but I love that, you know, and that's what Jesus did. It's, again, there's no strings. Yeah. And that's the way in my head, Jesus was walking the streets. Yeah.
in the stories we hear in the Bible, Jesus is walking the streets and he's just healing and loving people.
Yeah.
Just his presence is helping people through those moments, right?
The ministry of presence.
So it's like just being present there, loving them with there's times we see people come and they have like tracts or something, or they'll give you, we'll give you $5 on this tract, but you have to let me pray with you. And it's kind of like there's a string attached to that. Yeah. God didn't have strings attached to him. He didn't say, be here and now you can come serve me. Yeah. And so it's kind of like, again, that presence of just being there.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't need you to tell me I'm wrong or I'm a sinner. I know that. These people on the streets know that. Trust me, when you're in sin, you know.
You know exactly.
Whether you call it sin or not, you know what you're doing is wrong.
That's exact. I've always said that. When it comes to that. People know. Right. Because I always reflect and look back on my own life. I knew. Right. I knew what I was doing was evil. I knew what I was doing was wrong. I knew it in the bottom of my heart. But knowing how to get out of that. Right. That was the difficult part.
Nobody wakes up and decides, I want to be a bad person.
No.
At all.
No.
There is a major break somewhere down that lifeline that caused you to become who you are and not who you were supposed to be.
Yeah.
God gives us the opportunity to break free of that and become who we were always intended to be. That's the greatest thing. But we didn't all fall down this bad path because we said, hey, when I grow up, I want to be a drug dealer.
Yeah.
When I grow up, I want to be raped and taken care of. That's not what I woke up one day and decided I wanted. But it's what happened, right? But it was through God allowing me to go through those things, but never leaving me in those moments, and then placing people in my life where I needed them to help me realize that there was nothing wrong with who I was. I just needed to find who I'm supposed to be.
Yeah.
And that's really what, we need to remember when we're interacting with people who maybe are not a part of church or in our day-to-day lives. If you learn to, I say, I love the way I breathe. It just comes out. Yeah. And some people are like, man, you love everybody. I'm like, I do. I come meet you for the first time and I love you. I genuinely love you. And it's sometimes they'll be like, okay, but how is that possible? And I'm like, I don't know. That's my heart.
Yeah.
I love people like I breathe. And that's how we should all be.
Yeah.
It should just be not even a thought.
Yeah.
It just happens.
Yeah. That's such a message for people out there because, again, even going back to that theme, to that topic about, the LGBTQ community, I think a lot of times we're in an era, we're in a culture right now where, we want to be combative. We want to be so combative because we're always looking to be right,
Right.
But what I always tell people is that, when you read the books of the Bible, when you read in the New Testament, when you read Jesus' stories, and even when you read the letters, the Apostle Paul, and when it wasn't, their letters weren't to prove that they were right. There were instructions to the church. They weren't instructions to the outside people. They weren't really, it was just more like, hey, how you should be. This is how we should carry ourselves. But, there's a culture, even in Christianity, where there's all they're worried about is just being right. Right. Like, no, I don't, and it's like, we're spoiled. Like, first of all, here in the States, we're spoiled.
Definitely.
Christianity is very, very spoiled. And what I mean by that is that nothing bad can happen. No laws can change. Like, nothing. Like, whoever they want, it's like they should be entitled to get. And I even say that for us. I'm a Christian, but, I will freely speak about it. We're spoiled. Right. Where as soon as something rocks our boat, oh no. You know what I mean? Right. And we want to get political about things. We want to do this and want to do that. And we forget the vital importance that, dude, you're out there putting these things on social media. People are going to read it. And people are going to know who you are. And people are going to know what you supposedly represent. Right. And all you're showing, and I don't care who hears this. I don't care. Like, they need to hear this. Like, I don't, the only thing you're giving off is that you're a hateful person.
Right.
Like, you're not giving off that you're this loving person. You're giving off that you're just this radical person, that you're just this, there's issues within you.
Right.
Like, all you care about is being right, and maybe you do live your life differently. I'm not arguing that.
Right.
But the thing is that on social media, you're coming off as this, and people, when they see things like that, all it does is just harden people's hearts.
Right.
It makes us more combative. And it goes back to that same issue where sin abounds, grace abounds
Right.
even more. So we should be abounding in grace. We should be those carriers of grace to be able to, what does even the Bible say? A soft answer, turns away wrath.
Right.
A soft answer. But a lot of times, what do we want? We want to bring those harsh words. We want to bring those, no, this is how it should be, and this, and in our country, this, and that. And it's like, whoa.
Right.
Like, let's pause. Let's come back to reality.
Right.
Let's come back to human nature. Understand that you're a human and they're humans.
Right.
And let's relate on that level.
Right. And I just came off a fast from social media every year, and it's funny because I've been doing it for so long that people are like, hey, you're getting ready to go on a fast from social media, right? And then it's like around the same time, they're like, are you coming back soon? Are you coming back? Mm-hmm. But I take a fast from social media because I really want to make sure that I get clarity on how to use my platform. Because I think that
That's good.
When I see things, like you said, sometimes Christianity, we just want to be right. Doesn't mean that we have to run around in it and throw it in everybody's face, because when a decision is made and we won, right? There are still people who are really hurting from that decision.
Right.
So why aren't we loving them through that decision instead of clapping in their face that we won?
Yes.
And so for me, one of my biggest things is that I don't have a problem saying, hey, I'm sorry that you hurt in this moment. I love you. I support you. I'll support, if you're really hurting in this time, in these moments and decisions, and especially because we're in a day and age where everything is changing.
Yeah.
I'm a Christian. I love Jesus, and I'm going to pray for you. But you know what? I'm going to love you in your hurt. Again, it comes down to, you got to meet the person where they're at.
Yeah.
We have to get off that. So I leave social media. Our church does a big fast in the beginning of the year, and one of the things I fast is social media. So I can make sure that I'm constantly using that tool in a way to love and uplift and grow and help people. Yeah. And not to get caught up in the political part of it.
Right.
People don't know where I stand politically one way or the other, and it's because it shouldn't matter. Yeah. All that matters is that I'm letting the people out there who are seeing me, who are motivated by me or inspired by me, that I love them. Yeah. And that's going to be the change. Yeah. That they could be able to see and be like, oh, yeah, that's Jessica. Yeah. Yeah. Love her. She's cool. She goes to church. Yeah, she loves Jesus. Yeah, she has a relationship. But you know what? Not once has she ever downed me. Not once has she ever made me feel judged. Not once has she ever, put me in a position of feeling uncomfortable. But she still stands up for what she believes in. Yeah. And you can do that. Yeah. You can do that. 100%. If you're praying and getting guidance and you're just walking your walk that God has put in front of you, and you're not so concerned with everything else going on. Yeah. But I believe that comes in the strength of finding out who you are. Yeah. Because I didn't just get here. Like I said, it took me time to pull off the layers and stand strong in who I am. Yeah. And not be swayed one way or the other. I love that. And Jesus was a great example of that. I love the part where because they were always trying to tempt him. They were always trying to try him. They were always trying to sway him into one direction, because what a lot of people might or might not know is that when Jesus came, he came during a very broken political time. Right. Very, very, very broken. There was a lot of things that were broken in the Jewish system, in the religious system, in the Roman Empire. I mean, he came at a crazy time. Right. And constantly he was trying to be pulled into, well, should we believe this?
Should we listen to this? Should we stop paying Caesar? Should we?
Right.
They were constantly trying to, but he was so confident in his mission. He was so confident in himself. He was so confident in what he was here to do that he was never allowed to be swayed. And that's the example that I always try to use when it comes to, politicizing certain views, because I love what you said. You're 100% right. It's like, how can we shout and clap, if whether it's a favorable or a non-favorable decision?
Right.
Because even in non-favorable decisions, we should still, okay, you know what? But hey, at the end of the day, who's on the throne?
Right.
Who's in control? He's in control. And our job doesn't change. Our duty to love people doesn't change.
Right.
Our duty to stand behind people doesn't change. Our duty to love on people and find out, you know what I mean? Like if they are going through a mess, and still, because that's who we want to be. We don't want to be the people that, oh no, like, you know what, like I saw what you posted the other day, or I saw how, driven you are about this issue, or how outspoken you are in this and that, you know what I mean? And so instead of drawing them to us, we push them away.
Right. Right. Yeah. So no, it's definitely, like I said, I think the just loving people is huge for me. That's what made the change for me in my life. I went to church, and I remember that day walking into church for the first time and just feeling like I was at home. There, like, people were just loving on me, like, and I was just like, I knew that was it for me. Like, this is where I'm supposed to be. And just being there and being able to grow. And mind you, I went to church for 6 months drunk still, okay? So I still didn't get my act together. I was still a mess. I was like, let me sit 3 seats down away from my mom, because I know my mom's going to smell this alcohol on me, and I do not want her, but I had it down to like a T, like, oh, if I drink till this time, I can get up and still function, right? So I would go to church for like 6 months, drunk, hungover, like, oh man, I hope nobody. In my mind, I thought like I was good, but for some reason, I always thought only my mom could smell me, right? I didn't think anybody else could, just my mom. And so,
is that whiskey?
Like, what is that? I'm like, oh my gosh. And so, and then one day I just woke up, like you said, I just woke up one day and I was like, I don't want to drink anymore. I'm done. I'm done drinking. It was a Monday morning. I sat up on my bed and I said, all right, I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah.
And I stopped drinking. I've been sober 4 years now.
Congratulations.
So thank you. Yeah, it's definitely, but it just comes back to being able to walk into a church that loved me.
Yeah.
Being surrounded by people. And that was 4 years ago. So that I got sober. So that whole year, still trying to find myself, who I am. And then COVID hit. And I remember driving home and praying and asking God, I want to come out of this stronger than I'm going in. I don't want to die. I don't want to drink. Because mind you, as an alcoholic going into COVID, right?
Yeah.
That would have been, I could have easily started drinking and nobody would have known.
Yeah.
But I knew that I needed to do something to keep me from going back, because there's not an option to go back. And so I was like, I'm going to pick one thing, because I have to do everything that's hard in life, right? Again, I don't want you to think I'm soft. So I decided I was going to work out. I decided I was going to start working out at home. And I was going to start doing squats, because that was the only thing I kind of knew how to do.
Yeah.
And so I started working out at home by myself. And every time I wanted to drink, or every time I felt like this temptation was coming, I would just work out, and I would like YouTube how to work out. And then I started documenting my story on social media of me working out. And I had shared with you before, I decided that I was going to mirror my workout life to my walk with God. And what that meant was there wasn't going to be days, every day I don't want to serve God. And we're going to be honest, some people may say, oh, you shouldn't say that, but it's the truth. I don't wake up every day in the mood to serve God. Like, God, you want me to be a good person today? I don't want to, that's the truth. But I do it. And we all do it. And we do it because we know it's good for us. We know that it's the right thing to help us, right?
Yeah.
So I decided that I was going to mirror my workout life. I wasn't going to want to work out every day, but it's good for me. It's going to help me. I have asthma. I was like almost 400 pounds. Wow. We're in COVID. I'm barely still new sober. I have all these things against me that could definitely have put me back.
All odds against you.
And so I had to be strong. I started working out. And then a couple months later, I got COVID. And every day I would wake up and I would say, you're going to work out. You're going to work out no matter what. You're going to work out. You're not going to let this settle in. Hit my chest, of course, like super bad. And I had it for the long haul, 14 days. Man. And I worked out every single day. I mean, I would lay in bed. I would wake up and I was tired and weak. And all right, Lord, we're going to do this. You're going to have to get me through this, right? Yeah. And I moved and I leaned on him to carry me through that time. And I still documented on social media, like, hey, I'm going to push. We're going to do this every day. Like, keep going. Like, the good times. I would cry. I would have real moments of crying and real moments where like, hey, I feel strong. And I did that. And in that process, God started showing me what my purpose was. And I decided I wanted to create a platform for people who were struggling mentally, spiritually, and physically. And then that was around the time I met Ruben.
Okay.
And so he's tough because he would not budge for me. I was like trying to get in training sessions with him, and he's like, nope, that schedule don't work, Jess. And I'd be like, come on, you can't just like give me a spot? Like, no, he was not. Like, he's very on his, loving, but I loved what he stood for. I loved that he was faith-based, and this is what it was. And without him knowing, I adopted him to be my mentor. I wanted to that's what I wanted for my platform. Yeah. But I wanted to create a platform for people who were still afraid to go work out in gyms and work out with trainers. I wanted them to see that no matter how busy your life was, no matter how much you had going on, that you could do this at home. And so I started doing Zooms. I started doing Zooms at, I think it was 6 o'clock in the morning. Me and my friend, I would just work her out every day. She started being successful in her weight loss. We had another friend. All of a sudden, I had 15, 16 people who I'm teaching Zoom to workouts at home, teaching them how to use equipment from home. Wow. And I was showing them that and telling them that, you got to build a relationship with food. You got to break off these layers. It's not going to be easy, because as I was teaching them, God was taking off all these layers from me. Of why were you hiding? I didn't want people to see me because whether I wanted to admit it at the time or not, I didn't want it ever to be singled out and people think they can take advantage of me physically. And although those things happened when I was a little girl, it poured into my adult life. Yeah. So I was molested and raped, right? So there was a coat to cover me. Yeah. Right? If I'm fat, nobody's gonna I'm not gonna be wanted. Okay? That's kind of how your thought process is, right? Whether people realize it or not, I realized it because I was going through it. Right. So as I started losing weight, and now I have to learn how to take compliments, right? God's telling me, I need you to believe in how beautiful you are as a woman. These things don't define you. I've already showed you these things don't define you. As I'm working out to stay healthy, God's really working on me in my heart and my mind. And I think that people don't realize how God working out, your mental, all of that is a package.
100%.
And if you can't deal with those things, you're going to continue to go on this hamster wheel of gaining weight. Yeah. And I think that sometimes in society we look at heavy people and think oh, this is a choice that they've made, or they just allowed themselves to get like that. But we're not getting to the root of what really caused it. And so when people join my team, I'm really pouring into them hey, you're going to have rough days. Yeah. You're going to have to deal with stuff that you didn't have to deal with before. You might even have to realize that as a mom, it's okay to tell your kids, sorry, I'm going to work out. You have to wait. it's not because I want to work out so I can look a certain way. It's because this is what helps me feel strong for you.
Right.
This what now helps wives and husbands be better for their spouse, right?
Yeah.
Because we've gotten so comfortable with putting ourselves on the back burner and being okay with it.
Yeah.
Because now my identity is no longer George and Jess, right? It's, if you're a dad, you're a husband, I'm a sister, I'm a mom, I've been a mom since I was 14 years old. I don't know how to do anything but be a mom.
Yeah.
My identity is my kids.
Yeah.
And the fear was like, what am I going to do when they don't need me? Because I don't know who I am. But finding strength and realizing who I am, and God taking these layers off, using working out to help me remove those layers, and then allowing me to have a platform to show other people this can be done.
Yeah.
You're going to deal with things. It's okay. I don't want to see you go up and down. I want to see you be successful for the long haul.
Yeah.
And we're going to do this together. I'm going to cry. You're going to cry. You're going to want to quit. I want to quit all the time, but let's do it. And I'm going to love you through it. I'm going to be here. I'm going to support you. I'm going to check in on you. Now we have a whole community of people who are checking in on each other. And it's like that God really showed me, like, I love to help people.
That's awesome.
What better way than to show them through my story and my struggle and just keeping it real than to help them be like, it's okay.
That's
okay.
so inspiring, and I think that should be motivation for a lot of people, because I think sometimes people do question, well, what do I have to offer?
Right.
A lot of people might find themselves thinking, what's my purpose? What's my passion? What do I have to offer? But you're a perfect example of someone that has been able to take what you've gone through and everything that you've been learning through peeling layers, through your weight loss journey, and you've been able to really connect the dots in a lot of those situations, because I even shared a little bit with you earlier, is that for even for you and for me, like we can relate to that, where it took us so long,
right?
It took us so long to connect the dots. It took us so long. It took me going into my 30s to realize that I was struggling with some mental health, that I was struggling with depression, anxiety. It took a lot, but now that we've been able to connect the dots, or we're connecting the dots still, we are able to say, you know what, if we've been able to do this, why not share that knowledge?
Right.
Why not share that? Why, we can't just keep that to ourselves. And I think we all have that responsibility.
Right.
I always talk about it because I heard it one time and I loved how I said, that hospital bed you were in, it's time to get off.
Right.
It's time to get off. You've been healed. It's time to get off, and somebody else needs to lay in that bed.
Right.
And now your experience, you have to share that with them.
Right.
And it sounds like that's exactly what you're doing. And tell us how many pounds did you shed off?
It's about altogether.
Because you're not 300 plus anymore.
It's about 160.
Wow.
Yeah. So
160 pounds.
Right. Just working out.
That's amazing.
A lot of it I lost working out at home by myself, and then I was finally comfortable to go into a gym setting and work out, and so I documented that journey on social media. So that, because I wanted people to see that, like, it's a real battle. It is. It's a real insecurity. Again, I had these layers that I had to pull off. I didn't think I was good enough to be in a gym. I didn't think that I was worthy to feel healthy, like all this stuff. And so I had to deal with that. And so in my mind, again, remember I said in the beginning, I used to pray and ask God, like, let me go through these things so that my sisters can be safe. This was a different prayer. Like, Lord, let me experience these things so I can help people see that it's okay. Yeah. And I would just start going. I worked out at home for a long time. I found a small kickboxing place. I went there. Those instructors were amazing. From the minute I walked in, I was there the first day. And we were on the last song. I was crying. I wanted to leave. And I just remember him walking up to me, telling me, like, you're almost done. Don't give up. Keep pushing. And I was like, And I just remember crying through the whole last set, going through it, finishing. And that was my breakthrough to be like, okay, now I was like on fire, feeling the strength, because now I was walking strong in my purpose of what I could feel like God, like, and then other people were reaching out to me like, oh my gosh, we've seen what you did. Like, we want to work out. Can you help us? And I was like, yes, like, because I could see the more I was moving. And so, then I Ruben finally made room for me to schedule. And we became best friends. And then,
Ruben? How come you didn't make room for her, man?
Right, come on. He was still always like, nope. I'm like, can you see me at 4:00 in the morning? He's like, no, I cannot see you at 4:00 in the morning. Like, but yeah, then I started working out with him, and that was like huge breakthrough because, again, he scripture and word and just. In the workouts, he shares a verse every day in his group chats. Like he's very open. And so there'd be times I'd be in the gym, the gym with him working out, and I would be crying, like just having breakthrough of like moments. And he would say, what happened? Like, what's going on right now? Like, he kind of guided me through those steps of just being able to pull off, like, oh my gosh, this is happening.
Yeah.
Like, I'm really freeing all these things that I told myself I couldn't do. Nobody told me I couldn't do these things. I had told myself I couldn't do these things because I felt like I wasn't worthy enough. Yeah. I'm never going to be better than who I am and where I came from. Was just these layers were coming off, and he's seen a majority of it. And he can just continue to just guide me through that path and really pour into me all his love, all his knowledge that he had, and believed in me in the days that I felt like I can't do this. He's like, you can. Like, come on, let's go. Yeah. And he's still like, he's still always like, you got this, you can do this. Yeah. And having that in by my side was like, and it was powerful because he loves me with no strings. Like, this is a man who loves me, right? For who I am, for his sister in Christ. That's huge for somebody like me who's gone through the things that I've gone through. Yeah. God has placed many men in my life right now who has showed me this love that's healthy. They just want to empower me and show me, like, they love me like I'm their kid. Yeah. At 39 years old, these people are loving me like I'm their kid.
That's so good.
You know? And it just, so that's what I do now. I work out. I have a team. We call, this name just came upon, it's the Just Do It team. So it's JESS Do It team.
I like that.
Yeah, Just Do It.
Yeah, you should make some t-shirts like that. Just Do It.
Just Do It. And
I like that.
Sometimes I have 15 to 20 people that I'm mentoring through their workout journey. I love it. Yeah. And
that's awesome.
It's awesome. It's great because
it really is.
I truly am walking in my purpose. Like, I tell people all the time, like, the life I'm living right now is the life that I prayed for. And I'm truly blessed. It's not easy. Yeah. Trust me, when you're walking in your purpose, so much more responsibility comes on, like how you carry yourself, how you react to life, to things that happen. Like, I feel sometimes that maybe it's a little bit more pressure because people are watching me to lead them. Yeah. So I have to lead correctly. Yeah. And so then you have people who believe in you. Like Ruben, I'm taking over his class. I took over his class to teach. That's huge. I have my trainer who I'm training with now, Scotty, like, he believes in me. He's pouring all his time into, like, you have these people who are literally pouring time and energy into them. Now you want to make sure that you're using that and pouring into other people and just setting that example that, again, I don't want to serve God every day, but I get up and do it, right?
100%.
I don't want to work out every day, but I get up and do it because now that I am removed, I'm still, and I say I am removing these layers. I don't want to say that I was stuck right there, but I was like, wait, I can't even say that because I haven't removed all of them. Yeah. But let me tell you, I got most of them off. Yeah. I got the big ones. Yeah. I'm still every day learning how to pull off the little ones, but I know that when it's time for me to pull off those layers, it's because God's getting ready to put somebody in my path that needs to hear that. That's how it happens. And so I'm just going with it.
That's so good. That's so
Going
good.
with it.
I love it, man. Your story is awesome. It's awesome, and for sure, it's offbeat.
Right.
You know, your
right.
story definitely is offbeat, and thank you so much for sharing. You know, your struggles, your even those darkest moments that you had to go through. You know, and but how you've overcome a lot of that. You know, and how you've been able to see God's design in it.
Right.
You know, and it's not to say, because I think a lot of people can misunderstand a lot of times when we say, everything works out for a purpose.
Right.
And sometimes people can think, well, why would God allow that to happen, or why would God do that? And it's not so much that God causes these things to happen in our lives, but the truth is that we live in a broken world.
Right.
We live in a broken world. We live, God is not, that's one thing about God, is that God is not looking to control everyone.
Right.
He's not trying to, make us into robots and control every aspect of our life. And just like he can't control our life, because that's not who he is, he can't control other people.
Right.
And there's some evil, bad people in this world that do bad, evil things.
Right.
But the beautiful thing that I think we can learn through this is that if we allow it to, God is able to turn our mess into something beautiful.
Right. We have a choice. I always tell everybody, you have a choice to make.
Yeah.
And in those moments, you can choose to allow those things to fuel your fire so that you can be great, or you can allow to sit in those moments even longer than you have to. I choose to use it to fuel my fire to be great, because I truly know now that I was always meant and designed to be great. We all were.
Yeah.
We just have to believe it. As much as God believed in me and never left my side, I believe in it too.
That's awesome.
And that's what's important.
Yeah. There you guys go. Believe in yourself.
Yes.
And if Jess can do it, just do it.
Just do it.
I love that. If Jess can do it, just do it.
Just do it.
I love that, man. And I commend you so much on what you're doing. Continue
you.
to do what you're doing. Continue to shine your beautiful light in this broken world. And thank you so much for encouraging us, from a firsthand experience, from everything that you've gone through, from everything that you've lived. I think we can all learn something. And I know the biggest message is just love people.
Right.
Guys, just love on people, especially if you call yourself a Christian, especially if you go to church, especially if you're part of that community. I want to encourage you, your organization, your religious views, all that, it's good. But you know what? Our people out there, they need more than that.
Right.
Our generation is they're battling things that we have no idea what they're battling. We have so many young people, man, that are falling into new drugs.
Right.
All these synthetic drugs. We have so much peer pressure, especially here in the San Bernardino area. This is where we're filming. We're filming right here from the Purdue. And, our community, we need more people to get up, to raise up, and to say, man, you know what, I'm just gonna love on our community. I'm just gonna love on our young people, regardless of where they stand, regardless of what they do. Let's just love on them. And as we love on them, we're gonna allow the love of God to just pierce their heart. Because once God gets a hold of somebody, it's between them and God.
Right.
So let's continue to share these offbeat stories. Again, if you have an offbeat story, message me. If you say, man, I have some offbeat stuff. You know what I mean? We're all a little offbeat, and that's okay.
Yes.
And that's okay. But our story, our mess, it can be turned into something beautiful. Continue to, if you haven't yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Share it with someone. Share it with a loved one. Go follow us on Instagram. We're on TikTok too. All our information and details are going to be on there. I'm going to have Jessica's information on there too. If you're someone who her story has inspired you, reach out to her.
Yeah,
Reach out to her. What's your Instagram, Jess?
It's Jess 9804.
Jess 9804, and I'm
Yes.
gonna put her link right there if you're interested even in joining her group.
Yes, definitely so.
Yeah, hit her up. And it's gonna be life changing. It's gonna be life changing.
Definitely.
But thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you guys for all the love and the support that you guys have shown thus far. We're gonna continue to work hard here to bring you offbeat stories, because this is Offbeat Podcast. Let's go.
Yay!